Today I wanted to do some collaging in my new no-sew journal that I made in my last video, and I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about organising collage supplies, because if you're anything like me, you collect all the papers and you just have them absolutely everywhere, and even like the tiniest little scraps of papers you just can't seem to get rid of because you might use them in a journal page at some point. And especially I think because I like to do collage clusters as well, where I will use like teeny tiny pieces. It literally means that like I can't throw anything away for my journaling. So I don't think I'm alone with the struggle of organising junk journal supplies or just any art materials and craft supplies in general, but I also think that, you know, it's not only storing the supplies, but it's also keeping them in a way that you actually can use them easily, you know, that you can access them. And I mean, tell me if I'm not the only person, but also so that you actually remember that you have things, because I am guilty sometimes of, you know, packing things away, and I think it's really organized in like little boxes or like containers and things, and then I just like forget because I don't see them and I don't think then to use them within my journaling. So I've been doing a bit of spring cleaning of my supplies, and I wanted to show you a few ways that I've started storing my supplies to hopefully make it a little bit easier for me to actually use the things that I have, because you all know that's the thing that I tell you a lot, is to use what you have. And I think to use what you have to know what you have and see your supplies. So I have a few of these plastic like tub container things, I don't actually know what you'd call it, and I use them to store my papers. So I have a couple of A5 size ones and then also some A4 ones for like bigger papers. And this is really great for like keeping on your shelf, like if you've got like a bookcase or anything like that, because obviously, you know, it stays flat and stays closed. And as you can see, I've got different papers within it, but the issue that I find with something like this a little bit is that I then have to start like digging through everything a bit like this, and you know, I often don't get to the bottom and I kind of like forget what's in here, and there could be anything at the bottom of something like this. So I mean, why do I have embroidery thread in here, you know? So I just have like all sorts of stuff. And so whilst this I think is a good idea, I'm probably just not using it in the right way, because I have all sorts of stuff and I just keep like squashing things down. So I'm kind of finding that this isn't really working necessarily for the types of papers. And I was thinking a little bit about the sort of different types of papers that I have and what I store, and I've been thinking that I almost need this sort of system as something where, you know, I've just got like scrapbook papers or like whole sheets. That's what this needs to be. This is not the place to have, you know, all of my like scraps and bits, because like, you know, I keep things like this, but this is not the right way for me to be storing things like this, because it all just gets so lost, you know, like the collage washi strips, I obviously just like pop them straight in here. And so, you know, it can be easy to like forget that you actually have all this stuff, or at least it is for me. And so that's why I was thinking about how I want to store things so that I can actually like see them and use them within my journals. So what I've decided to do is to have a separate system for my paper scraps and treat them differently from, you know, just like regular, like if I've got larger like brown paper packaging or music sheets, book sheets, like that should be separate, I think, for how I'm storing them to be able to use them, especially because I often like to have them on my desk and I end up with just like piles and piles of papers, I think in part because I will just like take this apart. So I'll like be creating and I'll take this out and I'll put it to the side, and then I'll take this out and I'll put it to the side, and it can just get like so messy so quickly. And so I don't think it's the best way for me to be working with my paper scraps. So what I've decided is that I'm gonna start using some little tins instead for the smaller pieces, and then for things that are a little bit larger, I've got this fabric pouch here, and this is lightweight, so it's really easy to like move around on my desk and just have in the corner. And I think the best thing about this is then I'm just able to like go through it like this. And so I've got like tissue paper in here. I was putting in like larger bits of just random papers, ephemera, collage, stuff that I want to use. Even like the backing of this sticker paper. Now I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera, but the stickers were slightly embossed, and so it's left a bit of a raised design on the paper. And so me being me, I thought, well, I might use that eventually, so I've kept that. But just the change of having it flat versus having it stood up, I think will make it so much easier for me then just to be able to like look through like this, and then I can have it sit on like a corner of my desk, and when I'm working on things I can like, you know, add in a leftover from a project, or I can pick things out, and it looks nice and neat and organized in a way that I just think this doesn't quite achieve with all those paper scraps. Like you can see the difference. And if you're wondering, well, what if I've got like smaller pieces? Don't worry. So this is where the little tins come in. I decided to use these 2 tins. Now these are just from Flying Tiger, but they had like stamps in, and I think this one had pens in. So I'm just repurposing tins. You could obviously use whatever sort of tins you have available, but ones that are slightly smaller. I think this would be great as well for if I was traveling, or like I needed just to take a few bits with me on the go as well. But I've just got some like smaller bits in here, as you can see. Now this is a bit of a mix because I also have like some stickers and some washi tape on like a tag. So this is not strictly just papers, but it's sort of those smaller bits that I tend to otherwise have go everywhere. And because the tin obviously has this section here, as I'm going through it, because obviously it's a bit more like that sort of system with the papers, but I can just add them onto the other side and not worry too much about you know, where they're going, and then just close it when I'm done. So I think that will be a lot easier then for me to use when it comes to all of these, you know, just like slightly smaller bits that I can then just have at my disposal when I want to use them. And I can just tuck this into the back of the pouch like this, so it's all in one place. And then this smaller tin here is perfect for all of the little bits and pieces that I want to save when I am collaging. And if you've seen a lot of my videos before in my journals, you know that this is the sort of thing that I will absolutely use within my pages. All of these like little torn, you know, random scraps that, you know, should probably go in the recycling, but they will find a home within like a journal page, in a collage, in a little cluster. And so I'm just able to pick from these. And I did have these sorts of scraps in a slightly larger wooden box, but I just think that having it in a tin like this is a lot more portable, and I can just sort of, you can fit quite a lot like when you squish them down, but then you do have to be careful obviously when you open it up that it's not like a sort of Jack-in-the-Box style paper explosion on your desk. But I think that is then really handy just for having my little pieces of collage papers, so that when I want to work in like one of these journals like I mentioned, I can just sort of have that ready to go and just pick from these different papers. So what I wanted to do was to start like building out some of these areas here. So I started adding a few different papers as I was building the journal, but I just wanted to, I suppose, not create the backgrounds necessarily, but the sort of way I want to build this journal is to sort of really focus on the small details and just be able to have that more eclectic look to it, but also hopefully in a way that feels a little bit cohesive. So it's going to be something that I think builds up probably over time as I'm working in the different pages of the journal. And I have realized as I've just started working in this that I think I'm working in the journal upside down, but at this early stage I don't think it matters too much whether it's upside down or not. I just want to add these bits of collage, and I was doing this with the altered book I was working in when I was finishing off some of those pages, and I just really enjoyed that way of working. So it's almost like it's not mass making, but it's sort of just doing it in little batches rather than, you know, sitting down and saying, okay, well, I'm just going to work on this page. Instead, I can just sort of go between the different pages. Yeah, see, look, I do have it upside down. You know, I can go between the different pages, and I think that is one of the things I really like anyway about working in like a journal in this format, is that you can have that freedom just to move around the different pages, and, you know, add different things and have them be going between different pages as well. So let's see, I'm not really aiming for like anything perfect. I just want to start, I suppose, adding a little bit of color as well, because obviously the base that I created was so neutral, which is obviously really good because it can then lend itself to whatever I want to add to it. But I am feeling drawn a little bit just to having, you know, some color, but not having it like overwhelm the page. So, you know, I don't know why I've saved this neon bright yellow piece of paper, because I'm probably never going to use it, but you never know. So it's there if I'm ever feeling bold. Oh, I've got two of them. This has probably come off like a label or something. So if I'm ever feeling bold enough to use the bright yellow, then it's there. See, I've even got like scraps where I've done this process with the scraps and then I've torn from them. And, you know, there's a little bit of like crayon marks on them. And so it's kind of like scrapception, I suppose, because I've obviously made something with scraps and then I've torn it up, and now I'm doing the same process again. But I think that's why I also like the washi or like faux washi kind of strips that I made that I've got here, because you sort of have them ready to go. And you can just like tear little bits, like even if you literally just thought, okay, I want something that's tea dyed and, you know, it's got a little bit of stamping on it, you don't have to start like getting out the tea dyeing supplies and getting the stamps and everything like that. You can just pull this and it's ready to go. So maybe let's add this. I kind of feel like I want to cover up maybe that little join that we've got going on there. So yeah, I feel like this journal is probably going to be maybe one that is a little bit more like scrappy, I suppose, when it comes to the way that I'm going to start it off, at least. I think I mentioned when I made this journal that I don't really have a specific theme in mind, or like what I actually want to do with this. Normally, you know, I'm doing prompts or something like that, but I just want to be more free with this, I suppose, and just see where it takes me, I guess. And what I'm gonna end up creating is anybody's guess. So let's see which of these. I really like the parts where I've done the stamping, so I'm gonna pull some of those. See, look, and now I've got a tiny scrap. I'm gonna put it in my little scrap tin, ready to use. Maybe it was something with pink, because I did mention I want the colour as well. And if you have any tips for how you store your supplies, I'd love to know in the comments down below, so that we can all get some new ideas for how we could store our supplies, because, you know, obviously what works for me might not work for you. And so it's all just about finding that like method that works for us. So I just thought I'd share the sort of way that I'm trying out, you know, organising my little paper scraps, because especially with things like this, it can be so easy, I think, sometimes for them to like take over a little bit, because I don't necessarily want to like get rid of certain things. Like I feel bad if I throw it out, but I obviously can't keep everything. So the thing I think with this is obviously, like, yes, it's quite small. I mean, there is a fair amount of paper scraps in here, but you know, it's quite small, and I think I am gonna limit myself. So if it doesn't fit within this little tin, I either need to, you know, use it within a journal or use it within a background, or I do actually need to, you know, cull a few bits and keep it manageable, because sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming, I think, when I keep too much. And so, you know, I either need to put it to good use or just do something else with it. So even if I had loads of scraps and I don't know, made up some like the collage washi tapes, or like a masterboard style background, or just something with them, that way then at least I'm using them, and you know, they're not sort of overflowing then when it comes to keeping them. So hopefully that should help to keep it all fairly organized, within reason, I suppose. So as you can see there, I'm just building up these little layered collage clusters here, and slowly starting to add bits of colour to the journal. So not a huge amount of like impact really, but you know, it's fairly subtle, I think, at first, whilst I kind of find my feet with the journal and where I want to take it. I mean, obviously I'm going to include like florals and mark making and things, but yeah, we'll see where this goes. I also kind of feel like I want to keep it fairly flat as well. I don't know, I'm kind of feeling like this journal's not going to have like pockets and like tip-ins and things. I don't know. I kind of want to just experiment with having more of a like flat surface of this journal. And I have absolutely all sorts in here. Like I have little bits of book pages, little bits of like cut-offs from projects, super tiny bits, just because I was like, oh, it's a little like pink piece of paper that might come in handy for something. So let's glue that down. I don't even know how I've managed to keep that without losing it, but that will, I think, make a really nice addition to the piece there with the pink. And it's just those little things like that that I really like to keep, and then, you know, they'll find a home within my journal pages. So let's add a few more pieces. So I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into some spring cleaning of my paper scraps, and maybe it's given you some inspiration for storing your own if you have a hoard of papers just like me, because I could never let these go. They will find a home eventually within the pages of my journals, especially when I'm doing different like collages as well. And there's my little start on some collaging on the different papers. So a little bit of a slower start. Where did I do those other bits? I can't even find them now. I swear I did another page. There it is, right at the back. Yeah, so there's my little start on some bits and pieces within this journal. As you can see, I'm trying to do a bit of a like softer color palette. So this is only a base, so bits might get covered up, and I don't know, we'll see where it takes us. So I hope you enjoyed joining me for this journaling session and a bit of supplies organisation as well, and I'll see you in the next one.